Okay, guys, Dr. Samer said that I'm not allowed to put you under an exam, so we have to start now the presentation. So how did you find the questions? Interesting, okay. Made you think a bit?
Tough.
Tough, no, it's not tough. Okay, so I would like to take 1 minute to present the team. So we have 2 teams, one in Dubai, one in Abu Dhabi, and today we have a mix of Dubai and Abu Dhabi. I would like to present our eating disorder dietitian, Hala Abu Taha. She is in both branches, in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, and she's really a core of our team. Please welcome Hala. Good morning. Dr. George. Dr. George is is our GP in Abu Dhabi, and you will understand how important the huge role that family physicians or GPs have in the treatment of eating disorders. And I think this is why we're so excellent, is because we have a full team and all of them are specialized. I think this is the big difference. Thank you, Dr. George, for coming. Abir, Mrs. Abir Hawn, she's a psychologist, clinical psychologist, specialized in eating disorders in Abu Dhabi. And thank you, Abir, for your trust and for coming today and giving your time to educate on eating disorders. Thank you. Dr. Karal Shidja is our family doctor in Dubai, so she came today as a support. Ms. Rasha Shahadi is our clinical coordinator in Dubai. Dr. Nasser Al-Hindi is supposed to be here. He's our psychiatrist in Dubai. And the one and only Dr. Samer Mahmoud is our psychiatrist in Abu Dhabi. So thank you all, because really we have an amazing team, and I'm very, very grateful. Okay, so let's start with the answers. Where is Dr. Nasser? He left. So, who said yes? Who said yes? It's rare. Why is it rare?
I said no.
Okay. Okay, so let's talk a bit about disordered eating. Do you know anyone in your environment that is not dieting, or in yo-yo diets, or severely dieting, or chronically dieting? This is what we call disordered eating. Okay, so it's very common, and unfortunately today it has become the norm. So people who don't diet are perceived as bizarre and weird. Ah, you eat dessert? Ah, you eat carbs? So this is the kind of society we live in. Okay, the lifetime prevalence is 1% for anorexia, 4% for bulimia, 5% for binge eating disorder. It is a lot. Now, what's also important to state is that it is a disorder that touches mainly adolescents and children also. We're going to talk about children. So, and the level of impairment when you have eating disorder, when you are an adolescent or a child, is really severe and has, if not treated, lifetime repercussions. So this is the problem. It hits them at a time where it's the most crucial in terms of neurological development, in terms of social skills acquisition, in terms of all of that. So I think this is one of the most important things to think about.
Just to put things into perspective, now anorexia in children is more common than diabetes type 1 in children, and much more difficult to treat.
Yes, we have a slide on children. So I hear all the time, our family culture in the Middle East protects against eating disorders. This is not a disorder that we see in the Middle East. This is a Western disorder because we have such strong family bonds and family. Yes and no. It is true that the family bonds, family meals specifically, are extremely protective against eating disorders and obesity. Home-cooked food is today the remedy for obesity, to go back to basics. So yes, but unfortunately in this part of the world we think that the rates, so we don't have official numbers yet, unfortunately, but we do have some surveys, as you will see, and we think that the numbers in this part of the world are double the ones in the West. Imagine. Double. So in the UK, if you take, it's 1%. As I said, anorexia nervosa prevalence is 1%. A preliminary survey showed that the rate of anorexia nervosa is 1.8%. This has all those have been done on an Emirati population. Okay, maybe the GP wants to take this one. It's you. Okay.
Hello, good morning, everyone. I'm a psychologist. I'm not a physician, but I would like to start with this pessimistic slide to say that eating disorder has the highest mortality rate among all psychiatric disorder. And this is very serious. It's the deadliest among all mental disorders, and 23 people every day around the world die from eating disorder, from the complication of it, and 5 to 10% of anorexic people may die within 10 years after contracting this disorder, and 18 to 20% may die after 20 years. And the medical complication, the list of the medical complication is too long, but I would like to resume it by saying all organs in the body might be affected and damaged by starvation. And if I want to go through very fast, the brain shrink, what we call atrophy, and the performance, the cognitive performance are affected, like concentration and attention, and the skeletal system as well is damaged, and there's the lost bone, which is unreversible sometimes, and we have the infertility sometimes as well, but it's not always, like we will see later, and the hormonal system is compromised by starvation. But I would like to insist on the muscle mass as well, but I would like to insist that the most endangered organ, what is the most endangered organ?
Yes.
Do you think? What is the most organ that is affected?
The organ that is most at risk.
Excuse me? Yeah, bravo. Very good, Dr. George. It's the heart. And what happens is when the body is not having enough nutrients to function, it slows all its process just in order to preserve the energy. And what happens is that the heartbeat slow more and more, and the blood pressure lowers, which might lead to heart failure and this fatal death, because the body strives to maintain life. So what happens is that the body consumes its own muscle because it has no more reserve, it has no more stock, and it eats itself, what we call the cannibalism actually, and the patient loses more and more his cardiac muscle mass, so that leads to fatal death. So this is why anorexia may die within this 10 or 20 years. I would like to just add one more thing, that bulimic people are not they are not exempted from, they are not safe as well from eating disorder, because this cycle of binging and purging may affect the electrolyte, may lead to electrolyte imbalance, and the supply of potassium and sodium can be whether the amount of potassium might be over supplied or under met. That might affect as well the muscle of the cardiac muscle. So I try to explain, I'm a psychologist, but I try to explain.
And I think it's very important to know that it's a clinical psychologist giving you those medical complications that the GP will go through later on. Why? This is the difference between a clinical psychologist who is not trained and someone who is trained in eating disorders. Every member of the team has to know everything about everything. The psychologist has to know about medical complication, the GP has to know about the psychological treatments and their stages, the dietitian has to know about medical complication and about psychological treatment, the psychologist has to know a lot about nutrition, because they're going to ask you and they're going to tell you, you know nothing, you're a psychologist, what do you know? So we all have to be equipped to show them that we know it all on all those levels.
And not only that we know it, psychoeducation is very important part because they have a lot of misconception regarding eating disorder. So we have to educate as well, not to threaten them, but to say facts
why we threaten
and
them.
realities.
Yeah. So I'll highlight one thing is dietitians, where if you have a dietitian in the team, don't blame him, don't blame her, don't judge her. Most probably she's the reason why someone got eating disorder before. I came from a nutrition background, dietitian background, diets, restriction. Let this patient, abracadabra, lose 20 kilos. It's the reality. This is how they teach us in the university. And then when I converted to be an eating disorder dietitian, I realized the fact that it's not like this. It doesn't go like this. It's beyond weight loss. It's beyond digits. It's beyond take it personally. Just to make this person lose weight to attend this wedding. It's far beyond this. It's body, it's metabolic rate, it's age, it's genetic, and this is the very important part. So if you want to lose weight, here's the story. If someone wants to lose weight, here's the story. You need to know, is dieting a risk factor for developing an eating disorder? Of course, yes.
Who said no?
Is
no?
Is that
Someone said no?
Anybody said no? Come
Someone
on.
said no that diet has nothing to do with disorders. You said no. Okay.
to make yeah.
But I think if everybody is, I'm just thinking about the general population, and most people, like you said earlier, have in some point or another have been on a diet. Does that mean that everybody is kind of...
Can we make it a bit clear? Fad diets and severe restricting diets. Diets is completely different than lifestyle modification, and we'll go through this later.
So to answer your question, you have to have a specific genetic and personality background to be the person who will develop the eating disorder after dieting. So not every dieter, thankfully, will develop an eating disorder, not everyone, because you need, but he will develop other problems, related to dieting. But definitely those who they put on weight, they gain weight.
But again, to highlight, not any diet, just to have a balanced diet, normal, the fat diets or very severe restricting diets.
Yes, I just want to ask you.
Yes.
We
will go through it now. Yeah.
But just to answer you, it takes healthy lifestyle modification, which we recommend for overweight population, on someone who has a predisposition to develop an eating disorder, and he will develop the eating disorder. So it doesn't require fat diets to develop an eating disorder. Any change of diet will trigger it, even if it's a healthy one and a balanced one. But we don't know, right? We don't know that if he does have a genetic predisposition. So if we can identify an active population, then definitely these people should never, ever be on any kind of lifestyle modification, even if it's a healthy and balanced one, because those can definitely, overshoot.
To give you an example, like we're seeing a 12-year-old boy who, because he ate lots of meat during summer, his mother took him to a doctor to do a cholesterol check. And the doctor told him that he has to pay attention to his food. And just this sentence caused like 15 kilos weight loss, or 12 years old, and severe eating disorder. Is this not going to happen to everyone? A doctor is going to tell him that you need to watch your diet. But for someone who is predisposed, it will. And doing a lipid profile for a 12 years old is definitely not.
So this is very, very important number, that 35% of normal dieters progress to pathological dieting. Of those, 20-25% progress to partial or full syndrome of eating disorder. So this is summarize what you were asking for. So anorexia nervosa starts with diets, always. it always starts with diets. And that goes because of pre-morbid personality, perfection. They are always, Karim will talk about this, perfectionist or hard worker, better ability to sustain hunger, and positive feedback from the environment. And this is very important. You will see it with all your FXS patients. Are we seeing a rise in diets in children and adolescents? Unfortunately, yes. My son is 8 years old. He came to me a week back and said, "Mom, aren't you a doctor for food? Please put me on diet. I swear." I said, "Who told you that?" He said, "The teacher, the PE teacher." I said, "I will go and tell him what diet is. I'll show him." True, in schools, they raise this idea, they raise this awareness. They want kids to be diet freaks, and they want to raise this. And this is 42% of first to third grade girls want to be thinner. Imagine, you think that they are still innocent girls and they only play Barbie, but no, they think about being thin now. And also 81% of 10 years old are afraid of being fat. And this is not because they know what fat is or not fat, because they are influenced by the environment to be judged to be fat. 35 to 57 of adolescent girls engage in crash dieting, and this is what we were talking about, fasting, self-induced vomiting, diet pills, or laxatives, and this is a very big number. Overweight girls are more likely than normal weight girls to engage in such extreme dieting as well. So are diets on the rise? Yes.
In general, no?
In general. This is in 2000, year 2000, 24% of American adults were dieting. And this is in America because the only numbers we have from there. But imagine what happened in 2004, the number jumped to 33%. They were dieting. In 2015, roughly 50% of the American population were on diet. Imagine. So this is only in the States, and it's all over the world. It's became epidemic, the dieting thing.
But in the States, you have an endemic of obesity.
And the reason.
And that's why, that's a good reason.
It's a very good comment.
Yes.
The epidemic of obesity is linked to dieting.
I think it preceded dieting.
No, and there is a theory. Those two
Dieting
things.
is not helping at all. And all the messages against obesity are making the thing worse.
Actually, diets will make you fat.
But things in the States are horrible.
Okay.
No, this is the thing.
Dr. I want to tell you, this book has a theory that obesity was created because of diets. Obesity, the metabolic syndrome.
Has a lot to do with the obesity in America. I don't think diet is the reason. I think the fast food culture in America is the reason why we have obesity. And it actually preceded dieting.
Okay.
I mean, we're really we're creating a devil out of dieting. I agree that dieting can get out of hand and can be problematic, but I think we need to be balanced.
I am a dietitian. I live because of dieting. I want all the people to make diets, and I earn money. But I need to tell you two theories of this, just in a way, either you convince us or you convince you.
No,
they go to the extreme.
In the middle.
You have to read those two books.
Yeah, just one theory. They go to the extreme in dieting. So the minute one day they used to eat a lot, and they are addicted to food in a way. They start in the morning and they want to restrict food. So their intake will go from 3,500 calories to 800 suddenly. So what will happen to the body?
It's not right, and I agree with you. My point is, I think maybe it's the American way to be on the extremes, and that might be why you're seeing those numbers. But I think if you look at Europe, things would be a little bit different.
But
they'd be more reasonable, and the junk food, whatever food you want to call it, the outside home food, not cooked food.
Yes.
Okay, it's actually playing a big role in the development of the obesity endemic that is in the US at least 10 years ago.
Okay, that's I will answer. Do you think I don't eat? I'm a 68 weight kilos, and my BMI is 23. Do you think I don't eat junk food?
No, I'm not saying you don't
Hey,
eat
food.
junk food. My point is, You don't eat junk food only.
No, the way you see junk food and the way you treat and the way you crave junk food is the way, and this is also prohibited and triggered by dieting. So the more you restrict and reduce your calorie intake and deprive your brain, the more you feel that you need and you want to eat more play food, and that might be the cause, because how do you see play food, not how to, because we all eat it. It's fun food for us. Also, now the trend is there's not healthy and unhealthy food. It's fun food and normal eating, or high eating and normal eating. So we judge food when we say it's play or it's a junk or bad food. No, it's fun food or not fun food.
Moral values to it. Food doesn't have moral value.
Yes.
Food is food.
Yeah, true. But food can be unhealthy. I mean,
Everything, even the healthiest,
Yeah.
the healthiest can be unhealthy,
Yeah, I
because
mean,
the
you cannot-
healthiest is anorexia, and they have the unhealthier of all eating.
Absolutely. I think you have to
I just want to say that we're definitely not promoting the idea of people living on non-nutritious food all the time. This is not the idea. And this is not how we live.
Yes.
We eat nutritious food, but we eat fun food because it is very important to enjoy food. If you take joy out of food, nutrition suffers. This is a very known saying by Ellen Satter, who is an expert in nutrition and eating disorders. So, and deprivation is known to create issues. And in the States, there are many studies that has shown that all what they're doing now to prevent obesity has made the problem worse. Now, what creates obesity? There are many factors, but the campaign against obesity are making it worse, because the people are trying to do whatever people, doctors and are asking them to, and they're failing, and they're becoming even more obese, and they're becoming more frustrated, and it's not working. So we are promoting a relatively healthy lifestyle, like to eat nutritious food, to do exercise, but no deprivation, because it's not realistic. It doesn't work. You need to do something that you can sustain forever, and you cannot sustain